Hey y'all, how you doing today? All right. Um, this video is a response to a question posted by one of my viewers, and I basically just want to like tell you how I got all this stuff, okay? Because he was really interested in how to acquire a lot of parts and the pieces and the things that the way I do this. And So, warning, this video is going to be a little bit lengthy and there's going to be a lot of talking. So, if I've had some viewers say that my voice kind of grates on them and all the talking is aggravating and they don't like it, still kind of unsure how I can tell you how to do things if I'm not talking in words or sentences. Maybe I can be a mime or something, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, all right. On with what I'm talking about. Okay. Short and long of it. Like a lot of things in life, your attitude is going to play a huge role in how you're able to attain anything. Okay. Whether it's, you know, good grades in school, a good job, good pay at your job or anything like that. Attitude makes a huge difference in everything we do. So, you know, if you're like trying to like get that really cool car or part or engine or whatever you want for your project and you're like going and you know, going in there and you're talking to the owner and you're talking down to him or her uh or maybe that person's family, in case of a deceased owner, um, you're probably not going to get very far. Now, maybe those people are just like hungry for money and they'll take any offer they can get. But there's lots of times where if you walk into somebody's place and you start acting like a jerk, they're going to be like, you start displaying a lot of poor attitude. They're going to be like, you know what, buddy, you can just hit the road. So that's one of the most important things is have a good positive attitude about all of it. You're not going to get every deal. You're not going to score every engine or car or truck or whatever. Sometimes you're going to lose out. And when you do, you know what? There's another one around the corner. Okay? So, now another thing to be completely aware of is you need to be aware of not only your attitude, you need to keep that check, of course, but you need to be aware of a lot of other things. Like you need to be aware of like what fits what. Okay. Um, that's another big important issue. So, due to the miracle of interchangeability, which is really, very important in this hobby, you've got to have interchangeability because if car companies don't and they're making like one engine for one type of car, you know they don't stay in business very long because an engine is very expensive. Okay, if you've ever rebuilt one, you know what I'm talking about. You ever had one machined at a machine shop somewhere, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's expensive. It gets really just crazy. So um basically, also keep your eyes open all the time. Just everywhere you look, even when you're driving to someplace very mundane, you've been down this road hundreds and hundreds of times. Still, keep your eyes open because if you don't, you're liable to walk up on a really good, you're liable to pass right by a really good deal, and somebody else gets it before you do. But you know, being informed about all of this is very, very important. So, using manuals to help you tell what's going to work on what, and everything like that is very, very important. Now, some of these manuals are really great because they give you like vehicle serial number codes, stuff like this, okay? If you can break all of this stuff down, you can figure out what a car has, okay? This is really, really important. And if you can figure out, you know, identifying marks of an engine, you know, that's even better. Because then you can figure out, okay, hey, what kind of engine I've got, what kind of engine I'm looking at, you know. Oh, here you go. Engine number, location, 318 and 340 cubic inch engines. This also is on the 360 and the 273s. So, right underneath the cylinder head on the driver's side, at the front of the engine. So, if you can, you know, clean that off. If you can't get to that, there is other ways to see all of that. Okay. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you one right now. But give me just a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, y'all, and thought I'd show you this right here. This is my 360 I've been building. As you can see, it's pretty much, I mean, it's just some final assembly like intake and valve covers and timing cover, some front end accessories, you know, needs to be installed. But this gives us a great opportunity to see the numbers up here on the front of the block like what I was talking about. So I hope you can see that. It says, oh yeah, there, that's better. 8W360 6228. Okay, so that 360, that means that yes, this is a 360 engine. Now, back here, towards the back of the block, get the light up here, and you can see 3608. And then here's like casting numbers, 400, 6830. So 360, that's a 360. Okay? So, now, they continued that on the those numbers on the side of the block. They continued that on into the Magnum engines too. So, they would say 318 or 360 for 5.2 or 5.9 liters. Okay, so these numbers here at the front, right here, I think were used. They started doing that, I'm pretty sure, back in '64 when the LA small blocks debuted. It might have started even further with the poly engines. So, just a way to identify those. Furthermore, you know, this engine, to illustrate my point, this engine was bought from a friend of mine who lived up the road from me. It was in his 77, it's a 79 model engine, and it was in his 77 LeBaron. So, and great thing is, I bought it for like $200, brought it here, took it out of the car myself, brought it here, put it on a stand, put a bell housing on it, starter on it, changed oil in the filter, put a different carburetor on it, and points ignition, and it fired up and ran, and held like 60 psi, 70 psi of oil pressure, and like 17 inches of vacuum, and idled. So pretty darn good. I know some of you all are probably wondering, okay, but where? Okay, well, like I said, pretty much everywhere you'll find this stuff. Okay, Now, you might drive past somebody's place and they got a lot of cars, but they may be a lot of Chevrolets, or they may be a lot of Fords or Toyotas or Hondas or Nissans or whatever. There's a method to my madness. The thing of it is, lots of times these people get cars. They have to buy cars. Sometimes they have to buy cars in pairs or like a whole lot of vehicles. So if they're like, maybe there's a widow somewhere who's got, you know, a bunch of vehicles, and she says, or he says, hey, all those cars got to go, you know, all those cars got to go together. They got to be sold. I don't want to sell them separate. I'm going to give you one price. Here it is. Take it or leave it. And sometimes that's what they have to do. And sometimes those cars include vehicles that maybe isn't what they're doing, but maybe something me and you are doing. Okay. So, and something else to consider too is that for those of you who aren't big Mopar people like myself, these same ideas and practices work to gain cars that aren't Mopars. Okay, so you can use this whether you're a Ford guy, a Chevy guy, a Toyota, Nissan, Honda, whatever. European car guy. It doesn't matter. Keep your eyes open everywhere you go. Okay. Um, One thing I usually do lots of times is when my wife is driving, I will allow, where one of my kids is driving, I will keep my eyes open and be looking around lots of times, even places where I've been, because there's lots of times on those same roads I can't get the opportunity to see real good because I'm driving. So I can't be looking off the road over here and over there, I have to pay attention to my driving. So when you're riding with somebody, that's a perfect opportunity to be looking around. Now, uh, of course, there's also always the car shows, the swap meets. There's like eBay to some extent, Craigslist, maybe, Facebook Marketplace, very good place. I have done really well buying stuff on Facebook Marketplace. Craigslist, those sort of things, not so much. Word of mouth, though, helps out a lot. You know, your friends know become friends with other car guys too. That helps out a lot. Okay, so when your friends know that you're a car guy, they're going to tell you about cars. Now, sometimes it's a miss because sometimes they're going to tell you about, you know, somebody's Ford Windstar minivan, or somebody's, you know, something like that, that you have like zero interest in. But let me tell you something, be careful because sometimes those vehicles that are less desirable, sometimes they can reward you with some really cool parts. Um, Especially vans. Let me tell you why. Vans are really great because they are large enclosed vehicles, even the minivans, pretty large enclosed areas that are somewhat weather resistant, weather tight. Okay? When you have a vehicle like that, what can you do with it when you can't drive it? You can store stuff in it. So there you go. All right. Now, I have mentioned a couple of times already about widows and how that when somebody passes away, sometimes you can score pretty good on some parts. Now, I know that seems like I'm being an opportunist and maybe a vulture like kind of character, but here's something else to think about too. When somebody, when a car person passes away, a car guy, a fellow car guy or girl passes away, lots of times the loved ones that are left behind, they don't want to have to deal with selling some of that stuff piece by piece by piece by piece. They would rather sell it, and move on. They want closure. And I can see that. I fully see that. And lots of times when there's been a couple of times where I have known of people that I've worked with, husband passes away, wife is left, she wants to get rid of the stuff. And she wants to get rid of it quick. You know, Sometimes I can be of huge assistance by, just sometimes just getting that person in touch with somebody I know that will buy that vehicle, even though it's maybe a vehicle I want. You know, I'm going to probably try to you know, get it to this person because there may be a chance later on I can buy it off of that person. But if not, at least it's going to somebody that will do something with it or take care of it or, bring it back, or, bring it back to its former glory. Okay. So, but word of mouth is really good. And if you have fellow car friends, fellow car guys or girls that are, big into the car scene, they will tell you, maybe you got a friend who's big into BMWs or European cars, and they go to somebody's place and they're looking around through some stuff and they see maybe a Dodge van and a Dodge truck and stuff like that, and they know about you and they're like, hey, look, man, there's this Dodge truck there. I don't care a thing about it, but I thought of you, and you know, so they might be willing to deal a good price on that. So, and that's something else too. Um, when somebody does that for you, try to return the favor. Okay, don't be a jerk and be like, yeah, you out for your own self. Screw everybody else and that kind of stuff. No, you know, like I said before, good attitude. All right, so um, but persistence pays off, and being in the right place at the right time pays off. I've got a 489 center section on the other side of my Barracuda over here. Mopar 489, 8 3/4 center section. That's like pretty desirable because it has the largest pinion available. Okay, the largest diameter pinion shaft around. Uh, so, it's a pretty stout unit, and it's not in that bad a shape either. So, I might even be able to just put it in something and start using it right away, but I probably will rebuild it. Furthermore, um, getting a little off track there, I do realize. But here's something else to keep in mind too: is parts vehicles. If you can buy yourself a parts vehicle, it helps out tremendously with stuff. Now, think about this for just a minute. I am low buck here, okay? And I'm always going to be low buck. I mean, if you look around here, there's not a 426 Hemi to be found anywhere. Oh, wait a minute. I do take that back. I do have a model of one in my living room, right, or in my office right now. So there's a plastic model in my office of a 426 Hemi. Okay, but seriously, I am low buck. Why? Because for one, I have two daughters, and they're going to college, so it costs money, and they're still living at home, so that costs money, and I'm not going to sacrifice their education, their upbringing to finance something I want. That's just, to me, that's stupid because I want them to carry on and succeed and stand on their own 2 feet and do for themselves for a long time to come. Okay? So that's just me. So, so that's why I have engines laying around here like that, and this, and that over there. Which the three of these put together, guess what? Total purchase price for all three of these is less than 250, is just at $250. Like I said before, friend had this one up the road. I knew he'd had it for quite a while. I kept track of it. I kept tabs on it. And that's something else you can do is be persistent. Keep tabs on vehicles, parts, components, and other things like that. Somebody's got a lot of vehicles or parts. Keep checking on them. You can never tell. You might run across something that's really cool, and you run across them at the right time when they need something. This particular 360 was sold to me because he needed the money to repair his skid steer. So there you go. Now the $50 318 put it out on Facebook that I am needing some small block LA parts or small block Mopar V8 parts. A buddy of mine calls me up and says, "Hey, I've got two 318s and two automatic transmissions. I'll sell the whole lot to you for $200." I said, "Sold." One, this 318, which was not locked up. There's another 318 that's not locked up, and it's mostly complete. This one was even more complete. Again, changed oil and filter, different carburetor, points distributor, just like the 360 here. And then I turned around and the thing fired up and ran really good. Again, like 60 or 70 psi of oil pressure, like 16, 17 inches of vacuum. Thing runs like a top. Hard to complain about that, especially when you got $50 in the damn thing. So there you go. Now, another thing is knowing interchangeability. Like I was saying earlier, it helps you out. Go to the salvage yards, another place to get stuff. Guess what? You can pick up those little mini starters off of a whole lot of different Mopar vehicles. And that helps out a whole lot too. And guess what else uses those mini starters? Those are Mitsubishi, or no, I'm sorry, Nippon Denso. My apologies, Nippon Denso starters. Toyotas, they use those starters. So there you go. They use those starters, and that works out really great for them. Because you can get some of those Toyota starters and get some of the parts out of them and rebuild your Mopar starters, the Mopar Nippon Denso starters. So, okay. Now, the one thing that goes bad in these son of a guns is they have some contact points right inside here that go bad, and that's really the only thing that goes bad on them that I have found. And you can even buy those brand new now. So, but there's a lot of Mopar vehicles that has that Nippon Denso starter. 239 V6 non-Magnum version, 87 to 91. This was given to me. That's right, it's free. I have almost nothing in it. And it fires up and runs. Great oil pressure, idles, runs like a top, great vacuum. I mean, the thing is just it's great. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, outside of the fact that it's just 125 horsepower when it was new, and now now it's maybe like 100 horsepower or something like that, maybe 115. But the thing I'm trying to get across to you is always keep your eyes open, especially when you go to the salvage yards. Now, if you're in an area and you don't really have access to like a really great salvage yard, like one that deals with older stuff, like say 90s and earlier, okay, get out there, start beating the bushes. If you have to drive a little further, drive that little bit further, okay. Record drivers, get to know these people. These are the people that are going to be towing in cars all the time. There's lots of times cars are abandoned on the interstate. Guess what? Sometimes those cars are vehicles that you may be interested in. You or I. Okay, like Mopars. Okay, so, that $50 318 over there, that 318 sitting over there, guess what? It's got 302 casting cylinder heads. Yeah, that's right. And it's got the roller lifters too. And that block's prepared for the roller lifters. So, you know what that means? That means you can go to somebody like Hughes and get like a roller camshaft, get some nice new roller lifters, put in that thing, and you've got yourself a much more rumpity 318. Okay. Now, also too is those 302 casting cylinder heads. While they are not W2s, and I'm not saying they are, and they're definitely not Edelbrock aluminum heads either, but they are the kind of cylinder head that will do pretty good with a little bit of porting and a little bit of home porting, maybe even taking them to the machine shop and having them cut open for 188 intake, 160 exhaust. So something there to also think about. I've seen people do that, and they work out really well. They have that nice little heart-shaped combustion chamber, or not heart-shaped, but that swirl combustion chamber. So, again, know what to look for. Those 302 casting cylinder head, those 302 casting number cylinder heads, that's referring to the last three digits of the casting numbers. Were available from, I think, 86, 87 on up to 91 on the 318. Okay. But also, too, earlier I mentioned the less desirable vehicles like vans, and that is a good place to be looking for, like, say, a 360. Vans, buses, school buses, RVs, bigger trucks like 2-ton, 5-ton, that sort of stuff. Some of the C series Dodge trucks, the CNT series Dodge trucks, some of them had the big block, like 361, or I wouldn't be surprised to see a 440 in one of them, or maybe a 413, which is probably a lot more likely. Some of the D series, the bigger D series, like the D500s and those sort of things, you can get, big blocks in them, and small blocks too. As a matter of fact, I had a D500. It was like a 74 model, I think, and I pulled a steel crank 318 out of it. So there you go. Now that's not too bad, and it netted me quite a few good parts. However, on the flip side, the cylinder heads were junk. So, but it did run. It didn't run great, but it ran. And I drove the damn thing home. So, there we go. Another thing to be on the lookout for, like I said in a previous video about the 8 3/4 rear axle that's going in my 92, you can go and, like, I think 70, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but 73, 74 was the last year for the 8 3/4 in the Dodge trucks. But here's something else to think about. You can take that same housing out of, like, the 72 model and put it all the way up into a 92 or a 93 model if you want to. And that gets you the 8 3/4 dropout center section, which then you can swap that center section out. If you're got a half a brain, you'll keep a couple of center sections readily available with maybe different gear sets, so that you can have the truck ready for different kinds of action. Maybe some drag strip action, or maybe just cruising down the interstate, whatever the case may be. So, but one of the things you need to be always aware of is always keep your eyes open, keep your your eyes peeled, always be on the lookout. And when you do go to buy a parts vehicle, even though you might be buying a 4-door, that 4-door may have a killer engine in it too. So, that's something else too. Because not all 4-doors were created equal. Remember, some of them are police cars, or were. So, something else there too. And some of those police cars not only had great engines, but they had, like, big massive radiators, and they had heavy duty stuff all over the place. Taxis did too. So, but the thing you got to keep in mind is one, attitude. Okay, keep your attitude in check. You go to somebody's place, don't be a jerk to them. Be nice, be polite, and be patient. Maybe they don't have time to show you the car or the truck or the engine or whatever it is today. But stay on, keep it in your back, keep it in your mind. Take down their phone number, put it in your phone, whatever, and go back another day and call them up and say, "Hey, Jim, John, whatever, and say, "Hey, I'd like to see that engine. I'm still interested in it. Do you still have it?" If he doesn't, just move on. Okay? Sure, it's a letdown, disappointing, but you know what? You can move on. We all do. Okay? But also keep yourself educated. Okay? Now, just like with all of these engines here that I've just showed you, there's also the Magnum engines. Keep yourself educated. I was talking about keeping yourself educated about, what interchanges with what. Like that starter, some of those starters were off Magnum engines. And if you notice that 318 sitting over there, it has a Magnum front accessory drive on it. Okay? A lot of it was completely bolt on. Okay, I did have to do some modifications and make some brackets, but it works. So that's a great thing. So that allows me to have an accessory drive, a serpentine accessory drive up front on the front of a small block Mopar LA, which that never happened. Okay, so to me that's pretty great. Okay, also too, yes, I'm not a member of like any of the like online forums. I'm not a big fan of them. Sometimes they can like spew out a bunch of misinformation and things like that I'm not necessarily crazy about. Because to me, I'd much rather be like responsible for putting out really good information rather than putting out, just spewing out just garbage. Last night I read about an A-body forum. Let's see, 4A bodies only. Yeah, 4A bodies only. About the Magnum exhaust manifolds being used in these early A bodies, like my Barracuda. So, instead of buying the 700 or 600 and something dollar headers, you can buy the Magnum exhaust manifolds, which aren't too bad as far as flow are concerned. They're actually pretty decent. So, I hope you're able to learn something from all of this and gain some really good information. And, so attitude, patience, good positive attitude, and, word of mouth. That's how I get a lot of the stuff I get, okay? But also, too, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Don't be afraid to work for something. 360, covered in grime and filth. Did all the engine cleaning myself. I did not send this out to a machine shop for not one thing. Okay, I did all of the work myself. This Barracuda behind me, I did all of the work myself. I'm still doing all of the work myself. The only thing I haven't done in this car is I have not rebuilt the transmission. Fortunately, it doesn't need it. And I hope it stays that way. But you know what I'm saying, okay? I've done all the work myself. So that saves me a whole lot of money. And that money I can put towards other things, okay? So when I need that carburetor that's going to cost me something, I've got the money there. So that makes a big difference, versus being, hey, if this money is, I'm just going to spend, $600 or $700 or $800 or $1,000 on this part, Okay, yeah, that's great, but guess what? You still need tires for that thing, or something like that. So, yeah, need to budget yourself, okay? But anyway, all right. If you need any more examples of this, I've talked more about the 360 in previous videos, building it, and that whole Magnum front accessory setup is going to go on the 360. It's an LA 360, so it's not a Magnum 360. So, anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for all the shares, the likes, the subscribes. We're up over 630 subscribers. I mean, you all have went and done that. Yes, I'm putting out the videos, but you know what? You all are subscribing, and I really, seriously do appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Big thank you from me. I really, well, seriously, I couldn't have done it without y'all. So, anyway, I hope to keep this up, keep it going. regardless of what happens, and keep making these videos, and keep churning them out, and keep going. Okay, so thank you very much. Keep moving forward. God bless. Have a great one, and see you later.